What's up, Adam?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. This is Brandon and Adam Kail. All right, with
That's
Harrison Gray Search.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
And Brothers Leather Supply.
And I was going to ask. I'm interested to know more about that. I'm
Yeah.
probably going to wind up leaving here buying a belt
That'd be great.
and a hat, maybe a T-shirt, because I'm in. I like that stuff that I saw. I
Awesome.
stopped. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I thought we were. I liked
You
it.
never know when you walk in here.
I know. Well, man, nice to meet you. Thanks for having us over. Yeah. So we're basically just gonna go through a few things here in the beginning, get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
We had a chance to talk, and I think you have an okay idea about what we're gonna do here. So this is episode 3 of How to Fail Forward with Brandon V. Thank you for joining us, guys, everybody. The overall story here is I'm really interested in making connections with people. I think there's a very lost art in connecting with people. I mentioned in our last episode with Jared Wyke. By the way, Jared, thanks for hooking up with us. Good time. The intention, right? So we're going to have a Facebook page. We have one now. You guys will get to know each other. You can check in. I'd like to connect all the folks that do this and make connections there as well.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's a lost art to turn to our left or right anywhere in public and meet new people. So it is a little bit outside of the box, and I appreciate you doing
Yeah.
this with me.
No problem.
Awesome.
Happy to do it.
So your last name, I actually messed up. It's spelled Kail.
Yeah, it looks like Kail,
looks like
but
Kail.
it's Kyle.
Do you like Kail?
No.
Me neither.
My brother actually decided to go by Kail. He basically goes by it now. He refers to himself as Stu Kail. So me and him have a running conversation about that. But yeah, I stick with Kyle.
Do
sure.
you guys eat kale?
I love kale. Yeah. My wife has kale in the house all the
All
time.
right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then you're married, right? You have a wife, Beth?
Yep. My wife's name is Beth.
Okay.
We have 3 kids.
Right.
Iris, who's 8, Hazel, who's 6, and Louie, who's 3.
Right. Okay. And then the doggy.
We have a dog named Peanut.
Peanut. Right.
Yeah.
I like it.
He is he's a dog.
How old?
I don't know. He's like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
He's like a tiny little. I don't even know what he is. He's just a really small dog.
He's good. He's doing all right, though.
He's great. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So I believe heavily. I mentioned to you that there's a gentleman named Gary Vaynerchuk that I feel I just love the guy. And so the idea here is I think there are a lot of folks that watch him and listen to him and consume his content that I believe also would really love to connect with real stories, other examples, right?
Yeah.
And overall, I'm pretty sure with the attention you're trying to gain, I really hope that this has a chance to make you real and relatable to many of your potential clients. Maybe a portion of it's in your signature or, whatever it may
Sure.
be. And get it, and I think there's a lot of gold in other people.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here.
Yeah.
I think it's important that people understand no matter what their parents or their circumstances are, the market is the market. Your service is your service. It's good or it's not. And nobody cares about any of the rest of that stuff
Yeah.
at all.
Yep.
So, I shared a little bit in each episode so far. I'll share a little bit now about me because I don't desire for this to be about me, although each episode I really think has to have some context about why me, why am I doing this? Yeah. So I shared in the first episode that some of my circumstances were born early, had some abuse, in and out of schools. I fell into the drugs and issues after Marine Corps. I enjoyed some time with the state here and there for being a dummy, never being an aggressive person, right? Nothing like this,
Sure.
nothing related to like illegalness. Like, just dumb. I was out of the military, thought I could act any way I wanted, and there's that story, right?
Yeah.
So while there, I mean, you meet people and know that you get hit really hard with the fact that there are still good people, and you are judgmental and unappreciative. All those things that hit you, right? So, there are stories of mistakes throughout high school. There are people that'll see these videos and hear these podcasts and associate a past of mine with me, and hopefully I can get over that with them these days.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't the greatest guy at some times, and I wouldn't be the greatest friend. And though now, man, when Gary says I'm interested to know how many people are going to show up at my funeral, because of my legacy.
Yeah.
Like that's big to me.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to think ill of me, and that affects me in as much that I want to make it better.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So all that coming around, really, I'd like to know. Well, that's sort of my being honest with you. Like, there are some really shady things that have happened in my past, and I want to limit that, right? I'm all about being raw and real here. Nothing that would make you want to leave the room and not talk
I'm
to
not
me.
worried.
Right?
I'm not scared.
It's all a matter of like who's been caught,
Sure.
right, in the past, because we all do dumb things.
Sure.
So that's why I'm doing this. I feel highly compelled to let those people whose stories I heard in the past about why they couldn't accomplish something.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And here's another example. So
Yeah.
If you would kind of go back to sort of the genesis of it all, and if maybe start with, your parents, like what did they have available and what did they do? What was instilled and inculcated in them
Sure.
by the generation before?
Yeah.
And then what happened with you growing up and what that, just give me what you got. I'd love to know more.
Sure. So my mom was 100% Italian. So both of her parents came over from Italy. My grandma came, like, classic story, on the boat.
An immigrant story. Love it. I love
Came in through Ellis Island. Her name's in the book.
Wow.
Her dad came here 5 or 6 years before they did to work on the railroad.
Okay.
So my great grandpa, and when he had enough money, he called for them, and they came. It was just my great grandma and my grandma, and then they had 2 more kids here in the States, which would be my mom's aunts and uncles, I guess, or 3 more kids here in the States. So my grandma is just 87, 88, still alive, living in the Detroit's where I'm from.
Right now.
Yeah, she's still here.
Healthy and spry, I bet.
Healthy and spry. Couple hip replacements. Other than that, she's doing great. She's one of my heroes, easily.
Oh, wow.
My
mentor. A mentor even.
I mean,
Certain.
Yeah, so my grandma. It's a one-way conversation. She's like, Adam, this is what this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to do it. I'm like, okay, great. I trust you. You know what you're talking about. And then my grandpa worked. I actually have a picture of him on the wall over here. He worked at a tool and die. He worked for Ford Tool and Die, and he basically ran a tool and die press his whole career for 40-something years.
Nice smooth hands, I bet.
Exactly. He's got this picture of him in a jumpsuit, master machine, this massive machine, and I keep it right outside my office. And I keep it there because I really believe that he did that job so I could do this job. My grandpa worked 7 days a week, took every overtime he could. He raised 7 kids. My mom was one of 7. And they lived in a small house in Allen Park, Michigan.
What's small?
Like
size of this room, double?
No, it was probably like I would guess like 900, 2,000 square feet.
And 9 people altogether?
9 people total. 5 kids slept in the attic. And then they added on in the back room. There's a bedroom downstairs, and there's 1 true bedroom in the house. 1 true bedroom. The rest was they added on a back room, and then there was a front room. So I'm gonna mute my phone here. I think it's vibrating. So anyway, long story short, my grandpa worked a lot. My grandma didn't work. She took care of the 7 kids. They were anywhere from the ages of, like, I think her oldest was 16 when she had a newborn. So there was 7 in like a 16 or 18 year span, something like that. And
that there were, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it puts a lot of things in perspective for me, just thinking about him, because he raised 7 kids. They went out to eat. They would go to McDonald's like once a year. That was going out to eat. They lived a modest life, but a life that he built a life so his kids could have a lot of opportunity. One of my uncles did what I do. He was an executive recruiter, made a lot of money. A lot of my aunts held jobs in education, and they married guys who are in finance and education and law, and so I guess why I keep that picture here is because it really motivates me. It helps me think about someone who paved a way for me, and what am I doing every day to pave a way for my kids and my grandkids. Right. So that gets to the legacy conversation too. My mom was greatly affected by her lifestyle. How she was raised. She was very tried to keep us modest financially. My parents ran. My dad's mom came over from Scotland. My dad's dad was from 5th, 6th generation American from Southern Illinois, and my grandpa was a drywaller, and my grandma stayed at home and worked at their church, I think. But my grandpa, like every odd floor of the Renaissance building, he drywalled in downtown Detroit. So that's kind of cool. And same thing, hard-working family. They had a little more money because my grandpa made some good money being in construction, but they didn't come from a ton. You know, that was a 2-bedroom house they lived in Lincoln Park, Michigan. And then my parents met when my dad was 18, my mom was 14, and they started dating, and they were married. My mom passed away like 5 years ago, or 7 years ago. So
Sorry.
they were married for like 30 something years, 33 years. But anyway, so they ran Goodyear stores. My dad was a mechanic. Then he worked his way up from an oil changer from high school to a store manager to taking a job with Goodyear corporate. Got sick of the corporate life and then bought a building and started his own Goodyear store, which turned into 3 Goodyear stores in Jackson, Michigan, where I lived from like middle school through high school. And so
how much time was it, do you think, from when he started doing oil changes to when he
so he started probably
doors?
doing oil changes in the late 60s, and he opened his first store in 93.
All right.
So again, another example of like my grandpa and my dad, similar, doing slow growth to build something great.
Yeah, time on task over time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something we say a lot.
Yep. So that's essentially. So my parents ran these businesses, and so I think that was another way that I was kind of formed from them, was that I wasn't. I'm not risking. I'm very risk. It's not hard for me to take a risk.
Sure.
If I'm like, I'm going to do
averse
something.
to
I'm
risk.
going to try it. My parents did that. I remember there being lean months. I remember there being really good months. I remember them staying up late to talk about whatever because they had to deal with it.
Parents.
They were in business together.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
a cool dynamic because it's different than what a lot of kids are experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, mom and dad go off to work, or one does, one doesn't.
Yep.
And then there's not a whole lot of communication at the end of the day other than sort of like the ancillary things.
Yeah.
How was the day?
Yeah.
In their case, it sounds like not only were they talking a little more business, because it's inherent in being together
Yep.
in business. You're doing a lot of talking about it at any time.
Yep.
And it sounds like they had a healthy relationship
Yeah.
if your memory is they were talking things over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they would talk through. I remember when there would be issues come up, they would talk about it, after dinner or during dinner, and then, like other things, like on Saturdays we'd all go to the store because they'd be doing paperwork, and me and my brother would have to they get a tire shipment in, so we'd be bringing tires up the steps of the warehouse all day on a Saturday, stuff like that, like the family really working together on the family business.
All right. And let's get an idea when that was. So how old are you?
I'm 32.
You're 32, and this is, okay, so we're talking 90s.
Yeah, we're talking like
you're
late
growing
90s,
up.
early
Yeah.
2000s.
Okay. All right. And even then, at an early age, it sounds like they were putting a little bit of a respect for hard work in.
Oh,
And
100%.
Do you remember when you realized the value of hard work? Like, were you in elementary
College.
school or
No,
something?
I was in college.
Okay.
Because I went to a college that I probably shouldn't have been accepted.
King's College?
Yeah, it was really
King's College in New York.
Yep,
right?
It was really difficult. And the curriculum, they had just moved over to like this Harvard, Cambridge kind of curriculum, and it wasn't. It was really, really hard. I was working my butt off to get like a 2.3.
Really?
Like, because there were some really academically smart people there, and I'm not an academically smart person. Like I have to, I think maybe now I'd be a lot better because I'm older, but back then it took a lot of me to read. High school was relatively easy for me. Then I went to this college that was really difficult. So I learned that I could do it, and I did it. And I think I ended up with like a 3.1, 3.2, but my freshman year was like a 1.8. So I had to spend 3 years getting that number up.
Oh, I have a very similar. Yeah. I can respect that.
Yeah, and so I think I just realized like I can do this. I'm smart. But I have to work harder. But just because I'm not as smart as everybody else, as a lot of people, I can work hard and still do well in this school. And I wanted to quit. I did quit it once, and after 1 week of leaving the school, I came back because I couldn't live with myself because I was just like, this isn't me. I don't quit at these kinds of things. I can do this. And I went back and did it. And that really shaped me because I went into corporate America after that, and I was able to apply those same principles, I think, that I learned at college, just from a work standpoint to the business world. And I started to excel because I kept that same mentality.
And how much of that came, if your grandparents and your parents were on the other side of the beach ball in their perspective and how they trained you or raised you,
Yeah.
are you in the same place today?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question because a lot of my development most of my development came when in my mid-20s. I had a boss in Denver. I worked for this company called Jones International. And I think, so take a step back. I think, yes, my parents and my grandparents taught me, hard work has always been instilled in me. I don't know how much of it I retained because I don't know that I was exposed, I don't know that I was taught why hard work is important other than you have to work hard.
Okay.
I don't know if I understood the why.
The connection.
I think that I was like, okay, you have to work hard. That makes sense. But like, like for example, we'd be shoveling the driveway. And I would say to my mom, why don't we get a snowblower? They're not that expensive, but we should get a snowblower. She's like, no, it's not bad to, like, this is hard work, And I would say, this is hard work and it's good to work hard, but you can also work efficiently. And working efficient, if I'm an efficient person. If I'm efficient, I'm in a great mood. If I'm not efficient, I'm in an awful mood. And so maybe there's like a lack of understanding of my personality type. But in Denver, when I was working at this company called Jones, I had this boss named Richard. And he was the VP of Auto Trader, and he came over to Jones to be our president.
Okay.
And I was going to leave that company to go do something else. And I walked into his office, his first or second day, and I was like, hey, my name's Adam. I'm leaving. If you want to talk about anything, I'd love to give you any feedback on this company or anything that can help you transition. He's like, yeah, sit down. So we spent 90 minutes talking, and at the end of it, he offered me a job to work directly for him and just said he'd match whatever I was making at the other offer that I had. So, Richard was able to, working for him, he told me that I would learn more in 6 months working for him than I would in an MBA program. He's like, I promise you that. That's what I can guarantee you. And so I said, okay, done. That sounds like a good... He's like, it'll be the hardest 6 months of your life, though. I promise you that. And I said, okay, I'm up for it. So I started working for him. I started to realize a lot of different things about myself, and it was through like really intense feedback that he'd give me. For example, one time in a meeting, I was in this meeting, and there's a bunch of people in it in our company, and someone had a really dumb opinion, and I was like, this is why we shouldn't do that, and I said why we shouldn't do it, and I moved on.
It.
Well, I said that to the person who had the bad opinion. She said this, and I was like, that's a dumb idea. But I didn't say it that way, but I said it really, really close to that. Didn't think anything of it. And then 2 days later, Richard calls me in his office for a meeting, and he's like, hey, Adam, the only thing I want to talk about this week, your numbers look great, is this meeting. And I go, what about it? He's like, do you think anything was... I had no clue what he was talking about. He proceeded to tell me that I not only made her feel stupid, I made myself look like, made myself look like an idiot, and he said that it shows me that you have the emotional intelligence of a peanut, and you have a long way to go. And I sat there and I was like, what? And he gave me this pamphlet to read on EQ by the Harvard Business Review. Okay. And I went home and read it, and my mind started to open up to this idea that your emotions are like your academic brain, your intelligent brain, that you can train your emotions, you can work on your emotional intelligence, how you respond to things. And I had never considered that you could do that before. And so that started to really change who I was, not only as a business person, but as a man, as a friend, and as a boyfriend or whatever. Like that started to transform me. And I spent 2 years just focusing on my emotional intelligence, nothing really else about my makeup other than that. And it radically transformed how I respond to anger, how I respond in conflict, how I respond to meetings, how I respond in every way. And it made me that one thing, that one topic that I worked on gave me an ability to do what I do now. Because without it, I would not have excelled it in my last position. I wouldn't have a mentality of when everything gets tough, kind of buckling down. Or in small business, life gets hard. I mean, sometimes you don't have a lot of money. Sometimes you have great money. Sometimes you have great staff. Sometimes you don't have any staff. So, being able to keep basically like a fresh, even-keeled mind, and being able to work really hard on how I respond and how I treat people and how I let it affect me has changed me. So it's a long-winded answer of, yes, I think my parents and my grandparents set me up for success, but I think that would be the moment that I'd point to and say, this is what really kickstarted my career.
Cool. Well, so what my thought is, I really believe that there aren't enough. I'll keep it on myself. I won't shoot any curves or put an address on it. I think for me, I always keep mindful of like how would my grandparents have raised me, and there's not enough. How am I treating my children? How am I enabling them? How am I making them able? How am I holding them accountable? How am I putting good, good basic tenets of life and all this into their brain. And I just keep that older generation in mind. Now, the point being, though, that there aren't a lot of people with that. And so I'm curious, I'm fascinated by those that can get through even without that support. So you today, without that, fascinates me. Even though you did have some of it, if you hadn't, it would have been great to hear, that example. I'm curious as well, going back to sort of your childhood, right? School, right? There are a lot of people in school, 14, 15. And today, school is completely different than you and I experienced. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, or at least...
Yeah, I didn't until I was in a sophomore in high school. I had a cell phone.
Yeah. So you're probably what in...
I graduated high school in 2004.
I was going to ask early thousands. Okay. It was 97. I'm just a tad older.
A little bit.
Just a tad.
Not that much.
So you still didn't have, I think we had pagers then. As Gary says, the cell phone is going to be a pager to us in 15 years.
Yeah.
Who knows where we're going there.
Totally.
And voice. I love all the stuff. You listen to him?
To Gary
there?
Yeah, here and there.
I like, he brings up good points. So example, my daughter, we're moving over to the Forest Hills area because we want them to be in Spanish immersion. And last week on one of his podcasts, he's talking about, he makes the point that knowing other languages is going to be commoditized because we'll have these pods that we can put in our ear and just speak and it'll translate. And
totally.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's awesome. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It
is great.
I think, what do you think? Do you think it'd still be a benefit for somebody to have those, being fluent in the languages aside from the pod?
100%. So my kids are in Spanish immersion at Grand Rapids Christian. Okay. So my daughter's 8. She's been in it for 4 years. She's she's basically fluent in Spanish.
That's awesome.
But it's not, my biggest reason for putting him in, or my wife and I's biggest reason for putting him in there isn't necessarily for the Spanish part of it, because what it does to their brain. It teaches their brain how to transpose things really quickly, similar to a musician or someone who's really good at math or a coder.
Sure.
Same exact part of your brain.
Is that kind of, okay, so there were times in school where I could do, in calc, there are things I could do, and then I would have trouble showing how I actually did it. Because my brain could do it.
Yeah.
Because of,
Yeah. My buddy who's he writes code and builds apps, he said, and he's bilingual, he said that the biggest thing for him is having that bilingual part of his brain that he can hear a word in Spanish and conjugate it to English really quickly, translate to English really quickly, is the same part of his brain that can see something on a screen in his eyes, go to his brain, change it around, and writes the code. So I think just from what it's developing their brains right now to do is going to put them... If anybody can speak Spanish in 20 years because of an app, that's great, but I still think my kids will have an advantage.
Sure.
Because of that ability.
Sure. And I want to go back in a second to your circumstances as a child. Thanks for sharing the grandparents and parents. The other side of that, what about Mandarin, Chinese? My first view is, why? Now I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There are plenty of overseas. I mean, where is that on your? Is that something you would?
Yeah, I mean, I do business in China, so if I had someone speaking in Chinese, that'd be awesome. Same thing with Spanish. I spent a lot of time in Mexico for work. So I think Spanish is maybe a little more relevant today, but in 10 years, I think Chinese will be just as relevant.
And huge opportunities for kids that are speaking, Chinese,
totally,
Mandarin.
100%.
That's awesome. All right. So again, back to, my childhood was single mom, little brother. I was a 3-sport athlete. It's the only thing I could do to get out all that angst I had for not having a dad and all the things that I allowed myself to use as scapegoats for my, actions and, flexing my voice and my muscle, all the things a kid does. So that was, sort of my world with a single mom working 2 and 3 jobs.
Yeah.
And though she had her best intentions, I was, yes, mom, I won't, mom. Yes, ma'am, I won't, ma'am. Yeah, I promise. And then I go right out the door and do it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not having a dad around. I don't know.
Totally.
So what do you remember? Any embarrassments or failures that maybe you remember here and there now about, elementary school, junior high, high school? There's a kid out there somewhere who's getting bullied or failing at a test or not getting into a college, something that I think would be great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a loaded question. So I've failed a lot in my life, whether it be in sports or I was a 3-sport athlete as well.
What'd you play?
Baseball, hockey, and soccer.
Ice hockey? Mm-hmm. Awesome. I wanted to play that so bad.
I play it now too a little bit. It's so much fun.
I wanted to play hockey so bad.
It's great.
Cool. It was a uniform. It was all the equipment for me.
Yeah.
I wanted, and I painted my skates.
Yeah.
You know, like Gretzky. I was getting the Sports Illustrated for kids with it. You remember that?
Oh yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. Oh, I loved that. I loved that. It was so expensive though.
Yeah, that was a problem. We did played a little bit. Soccer and baseball were like the two that I played most of the time.
Here you go. Here's a ball and a glove. Go have fun, kid.
See you later. So yeah, I'd say like. So I'll answer that question in two places.
Please.
The first, this is gonna sound like not that big of a failure, but it was to me. We were I played in baseball. I was playing varsity baseball. It was my sophomore year, and I always led off because I could bunt and get to first base every time. I could lay a beautiful bunt down right down the third base line, beautifully, and I could get to first base 9 times out of 10, no problem. So we had 1 out, and we were trying to move a runner from second to third. It was in like, I can't remember if it was the districts or if it was like the playoffs for our league we were in. I can't remember. Anyway, I was up and I was laying down a bunt to move the guy from second to third, and I was gonna get to first base. Well, long story short, I lay down this beautiful bunt and I take off at first base and I bite it and I trip. Face first. They throw the guy out third, throw me out at first. Game over. Ball game. 2 outs.
You were what grade?
I was a sophomore or junior in high school. I can't remember.
Are you on JV at this point? You're on varsity.
Yeah, I was on varsity.
Had you had a chance yet to prove yourself, and they realized this is sort of a mess up, or this is sort of your first chance?
No, this was I was established. This was my thing. This is my niche.
So there's already an expectation. There's a bit of a reputation about you.
Yeah. And I think what I learned from that years later, as I look back on it, because I'll never forget it, was that, you know, no matter how good you are at something, and no matter how easy it comes to you, you're not immune from falling on your face, literally. Sure. And that's exactly what happened to me. And you know, my teammates, they razzed me about it for a little while, and I screwed it up. Like, what else are you gonna do? I screwed it up. But I think that is something that stands out to me because. I thought I had it, no problem, wasn't even thinking about it, and I tripped over my own 2 feet, fell flat first, and lost the game. Basically lost the game for us. And so, but the things you don't remember is I've also hit a number of game-winning shots, or I've won a lot of games for us too. But I only think about the time that I failed. Right. So that would be the thing that sticks out, and the metaphor there is literally you could fall on your face no matter how good you are at something if you're not focused on what you're trying to accomplish. All right. Was there a season? There was still a game or two or more left. Yeah, I can't remember if it was. I don't think it was the district. Fine. I don't think it was districts. I think it was. So it was just during the season. Ended the season. No, but it was definitely like we needed to win that game. Yeah, that would have been bad. Another time in soccer, we were in the playoffs, and I hit the goalpost off a penalty shot. And we had just worked on in practice. This is another great lesson. We had just worked on in practice. If the ball hits the goalpost, but the goalie never touches it, you can touch it again as the kicker in soccer. So in a penalty kick, it's just you and the goalie. The ball's 6 yards out. I hit the goalpost. The goalie never touched it. The ball rolled right back to me, and I backed away from it because I forgot I messed up the training. You could have taken another shot on it. Yeah, I could have put it right back in the net because the goalie had jumped. It was a wide open net. I missed it. I stepped away. One of my teammates went to kick it, hit it over the net or something, and I got pulled out of the game because my coach was like, we had just covered this, and it was in the playoffs. We just covered this in practice. And I'm like, that was the captain of our team. I was one of our best players. That one, too, stands out because I thought I knew. I thought I was like, yeah, I got this, no problem. Didn't really pay attention in practice. It was just kicking. I never missed. I always hit the shots. That's what I was going to ask about. Yeah. I never missed. Where did you fall short in prep? Yeah, just didn't think I'd miss. I didn't miss. So that's another example of, thinking you've got it, getting cocky, and then literally like something you just practiced, you mess up big time. Wow. So those two things stand out for me. Okay. If the thing too, like your question about someone's in high school or in middle school or trying to get in colleges, and I think like the pressure. I don't view high school or college as, I don't look at like when I'm interviewing people for my companies. Someone comes in, they tell me your resume, they give me your resume, they say, hey, I got a 4.0 at Aquinas, or I got a 3.8 at University of Michigan. I say, I don't care. I do not care what your GPA is. That tells me nothing about your work ethic. That tells me nothing about your character. All that tells me is that in a lot of respects, you still have to work hard at schools like that to get good grades. I'm not diminishing that. What I'm saying is it doesn't translate directly to a really good employee. Does not.
No.
Does not translate.
No.
And so in high school, if you're not hitting grades and you're trying hard, or if you didn't get into that school you really wanted to and you tried really hard, the world is not over.
Right.
Companies, when you get outside of college, companies don't care about most companies don't, what your grades were at whatever college you went to or whatever college you went to.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No
one ever asked me about King's. No one's ever heard of the King's College. No one's ever asked me why I went there. I got any job I wanted to because I could interview well and I could sell myself and I worked really hard.
And I like it. And I tell kids all the time, it's about how much knowledge you can put in your brain so that when you're sitting at that table with somebody to either start a business with you because you're entrepreneurially minded, or you're looking for a job or attention of a client, it's about whether or not you can find in your brain something that's common with what they're talking about and have common ground and actually speak on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about that moment, right? So
and it's about getting people to like you. Like,
of course, it's not all about brain.
Yeah,
you know.
but it's the airport test. It's like if you get stuck if you're in an airport, if you have a layover, this is a question to ask yourself. If you are in a layover at airport and you're sitting at a bar or restaurant and you're stuck next to this person for 4 hours,
I'm making a friend.
Would you be okay with it? That's the question. So like, if I'm interviewing you and I'm sitting here, I'm thinking in the back of my head, would I want to sit next to this guy for 4 hours if I had to? That's a legitimate question.
That's awesome. Yeah,
and if the answer is no, you're probably not going to hire that person because you don't really jive with them or connect with them. And so like that's something too that you can't really teach at college, but you can develop those skills where you become other-minded, you focus on other people and what they need, and you make yourself relatable. And most people like that in someone.
Yeah. And so Gary says a lot about self-awareness. I mean, how much does self-awareness play in that role for you?
Yeah, it's all of it. Self-awareness is understanding how you're perceived. It's a big element of emotional intelligence, a huge element of business maturity, and being aware of how the space you're taking up in a room. And the majority of people, a lot of people don't have that skill, and they're not even aware of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't. So, self-awareness it's a differentiator as well.
Well, Grit to Great is a book. We have a book month or a book club each month on our team. And so this month, the other day I read Grit to Great, and there was a portion there where they talk about, 80% of the population is able to be able to grind and get out of where they are and don't.
Yeah.
It's there. And so we had a good moment there about college. And so one of the questions I had for you was, so I'm 14. I want to be an entrepreneur. Do I go to college?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, college is a big part of my development. I could not have done what I'm doing if I didn't go to college, but it wasn't because of what I learned necessarily. College taught me how to think differently, but it was just that I needed to grow up. I could not have run a successful company at the age of 18. Some people can. So, and college is not for everyone. If my daughters say, I don't want to go to school, I want to do this, I'd be like, sure, if it makes sense. Fine.
Right. So if somebody has a desire to do something, should they?
College is an awesome social experiment. It helps you grow up. It gives you responsibility. It still holds you accountable because there's things you have to do. And so, yeah, I mean, it depends on, and the thing about being an entrepreneur is what's your idea. If you're not solving a problem,
right,
and you can't articulate what your idea is, then you should definitely go to college. 100%, because you don't have an idea that's going to sustain.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about not going to college and then sitting around and playing video games.
Yeah.
And so again, back to a little bit in your formidable years, right? I'd love another example, whether it be school or with a girl where you were, maybe she said no, or you were, I want to scuba dive and dig a little bit more for one more example, essentially, and. A good lesson, I especially in the wake of everything that's happening with schools these days, and people getting their little emotions hurt, and I think there was this thing I saw.
What's happening with schools these days?
Oh, geez. Well, okay. So I'm referring to the shootings, right? And it's coming back to a good portion of that is that person's inability to deal with whatever it was that they were presented that made them angry, right? And getting their feelings hurt, and I also believe that's really going back to the person that's doing it being unsensitive to.
They're getting bullied.
Unaware of what they're doing to other people.
They're bullying people. They're
Right.
bullying a lot of people who get to breaking point. I'm not saying it's not their fault. The people that do the shooting, it's their fault for shooting people, 100%. But and if you read the Columbine book, the about those shooters, that book's really eye opening and a little terrifying. But same thing. It's these kids were just bullied because they were different, and it's heartbreaking on both sides that someone got to that spot where they were like, and I'm not justifying
I'm with you
at all.
We're on the same.
It's awful, and those people should be in prison or be dead like they are. But it's sad. So I guess I get what you're saying. So in light of high schoolers now,
if one person right now watches this and feels better about their chances and does so, I mentor a kid right now at a local school that's for kids that have some troubles.
Yeah.
And the other day I stopped by to see him, and he was sitting with one of the heads of the school who was claiming that he was, why have I heard from 3 people today that you talked down to them or said, and the only thing I could give to him was, in 1990s, like what's happening in these hallways with you right now.
Yeah.
In May 13th of 2031, this will have zero to do with your Tuesday at 3:00. Like nothing.
Yeah.
So
totally.
If we can help, if you could help share like one person, a little bit about why that means nothing, why this is so fleeting and so unimportant, and why the macro is so important. And that's kind of who I want to reach out to.
Gotcha. So this builds up to what is one, like someone called me. I was talking to someone I met on LinkedIn, and he called me. He's like, I get sometimes people ask me for career advice because I talk to people all day in my search business, and we're just giving career advice and we're helping people find jobs. And so like I watch a lot of people's careers, and I see how they go, and I see why they do what they do. And I got a question. He's like, a lot of this guy's problems were based on his current job. They were based on, they're not treating me this way, that my boss doesn't respect me, my boss doesn't value me, I'm killing for the company, I'm not getting paid the way I should. All of his feelings were based on what others were doing to him. And I told him something that helps shape me, that helps shape what I look for, or how I always look to the future. So, for example, if I look at my Southwest account and there's no flights booked, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I need a trip because I need something to look forward to. Like, my job is great, my kids are great, it's usually me and my wife going somewhere, or we're taking our kids somewhere. But like, if I don't have a trip in my Southwest app in the next year, then I need to get a trip booked, because that's something I really look forward to doing, is going somewhere and visiting someplace. But I always am looking towards, where do I want my life to be in 10 years? That is what drives my decisions today. I do 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 1-year goals, 1-month goals, 1-week goals, 1-day goals. Like, that's exactly how my life works. And so I'm always looking to that 10-year mark. And I'm not looking at today, but that's what drives my happiness. Am I operating at a level, or am I acting in a way that's setting myself up to be that person, or to get that thing, or to be in this position that I want to be in 10 years? And so if the answer is no today, that I'm not doing that, then I'm having a bad day. If the answer is yes, then I'm having a great day. Because again, it goes back to, I'm an efficient person, and if I'm being efficient, I'm doing everything I need to do to get to that space. Are
you leaving at the end of the day with anything left undone?
Yeah, but I get it done.
When did you become okay with leaving?
When I had kids. That was the answer to that question. I would say, if you're 14 or 15 and life sucks, or you have these idiot bullies who are bullying you, chances are you're going to go farther in life than they are. That happens 8 times out of 10.
You will go farther.
You'll go farther.
Be too cool for school. Or too school for cool, pardon me.
But what I would say is, don't focus on who you want to be at 24. And think about that person. Who do you want to be at 24? And start acting like that now. Start thinking about what that looks like. What do you need to do? It's a lot of introspectiveness. And it's almost impossible at 14 to think this way, because, one, our brains aren't,
I don't know. There's some
developed.
13 and 14-year-olds out there that are monetizing and killing it.
Well, there are some, but I'm saying overall, the general population is hard for, like, our brains mature so much from 10 to 25. It's crazy. And so the growth there is phenomenal. But if you can start to think about your life, not what's happening to me tomorrow or what Sally thinks of me tomorrow, but look at my life as, how do I think of me tomorrow, and how do I think of myself in 10 years? man, that will open up, that will change how you operate, that will change how you approach your day, it'll change how you approach lunch, it'll change how you approach your sports at night. Everything will change because the opinion that matters most is the opinion that you have of yourself. And that is not affected by anybody else, and you don't let it be because they have no power over you. Because most of the time they're just idiots anyway. They're just idiots, and they are really unhappy with who they are, and so they put it on you.
Oh, 100, absolutely.
So
I tell, so I coach lacrosse as well, and then the gentleman I mentor, those kids that are doing that now, that are focused on the 30,000-foot view of life, they're going to be the ones that they were when I was in school. They were the ones that were doing what they should, and they are the ones now who the rest of us mainly go to for jobs, and we hope they will hire us.
Yeah.
And the roles switch.
Totally.
It's just not an important thing. It's so unimportant. So I think now that I'm sitting here with you, I'm thinking about putting myself in the same spot. So I went to 2 different middle schools, I think, and 4 different high schools. I was constantly the new guy.
Yeah.
Constantly the new guy. And that's great in a lot of ways. All the girls are interested to know a little bit about you. However, most of the guys don't like that.
Yeah.
Nor do they like when you practice on the football field at 100%
Yeah.
game or practice. I mean, it was 100%.
Yeah.
So at 65 pounders, my boss hog coach
Yeah.
had me going 100%, and it was just sort of instilled in me, and it was easy for me. I appreciate that. There's some really good nuggets about life. But you said you didn't really get it until college.
Yeah.
And so obviously it can be tough to reach some kids that are 14, 15, 7th grade, 8th grade and above right now having such a tough time.
Yeah.
Or those that are just out of school banging their head with 300 grand in debt.
Yeah.
Right. And no vision of where they're going to go next. I think in those formidable years now, back to my point sitting with you, I'm realizing if I were back in school today, and maybe I wasn't athletic or, a 4 on the good-looking scale, maybe I was a 1 or a 2, then life would be maybe a little harder. How would I fight through some of those tough times?
Totally.
And find the person that was too school for cool? What I would do is I would find that person. So my advice, and I'm sitting here, would be open your eyes, find somebody that's really doing okay and has their crap together, recognize that talent out there, and commit to befriending them, and then emulating them after learning a little more about what they're doing. Just go and then use that in some manner to why off with whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. So those that don't know Gary Vee, please look him up. My man used to go. I think he was like 6 or 7 years old. He would go and sit at an intersection and count how many cars came by which direction, so he could decide for hours and hours. So he could decide which spot he would put his signs for his lemonade stand. It's
Genius marketing.
Right?
Yeah.
So find something, and I'm sure you agree, and I think about this every day now. There's no reason for me or Jeffrey or you or anybody watching this to not be able to go and deploy something and hit that mark of 6 figures, whatever it is they want, with social media and internet and just the full far-reaching scope of it all. The fact that there are kids making $10 million a month playing video games on YouTube whilst others watch them play video games.
I know.
So daily I'm thinking, how do I do something and involve others with something that can affect them and monetize, and I'm a newbie at it all, right? And so, is there what's the best part of the day for you? I'm gonna switch gears.
Man, the best part of my day, I work out in the mornings, and it's just a really good way for me to it's good for your body. It releases good chemicals in your body and
stuff. So what time are you up?
Depends on whenever my son gets me up, usually between 5 and 6. But
okay.
Once I get him settled with food, then I'll go downstairs and work out. So that's a great part of my day.
You're working down, and you say working out downstairs basement. In your basement?
Yeah.
What do you, okay. Yeah, pull-up bar, what are you doing?
Yeah, we have elliptical, and I do then I do my own stuff, like sit-ups, push-ups, all that good stuff. Mostly just getting my heart rate up and sweating a lot. That's what gets me it's a great start for my day.
Sure.
But I would say that like I guess every day varies because everything is so different here. But like the best part, it's always when I get home, and the kids are always crazy, but then they come and run and give me a hug. They're still at that age, and it's just good seeing them again, and it puts stuff back in perspective of why I do what I do. And then it gets really hard. It goes from the best part to the hardest part because I'm tired. They're at the end of their rope. Bedtime, bath. You know how that goes. It's nuts. It's crazy.
What time do you start putting them down?
We start like around. So my 8 and 6-year-old, we don't put them to bed till 8 o'clock now on school night. So we start the process like at 6:30.
Oh wow!
But you know they each need a bath, and then
Sure.
and then we get the boy down, and then the girls go down. So it's just crazy. But
it just flies by.
Yeah, and then it's 8:30, and then you're like, oh well, I'm getting up in like 8 hours. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So yeah.
My wife usually falls. She'll go out and read books to my daughter, and I'll read books to my son. And she always falls asleep in my daughter's bed with her, so I don't even.
Yeah, right.
I get to see her.
I know, right?
She just falls. I go in there, wake her up. Let's go to bed.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I want to go back again, and I'm curious, what is it in the beginning of your journey? So you started this in 2013 after a little bit of time with Kings and some. Did you see the post that I put down? But I ad-libbed a little bit there at the end about what your purpose was and why you did it. Was that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so here you were in the corporate world, and you decided you, I guess, didn't want to do that any longer.
Totally.
And you were considering taking a risk.
Yeah. I was in the corporate world, and I was responsible I had like 250 people on my team, responsible for $49 million in revenue. And it was stressful. Like I had worked my way up to that point and been with that company for 3.5 years.
How old were you at this point?
25.
Okay.
And I was working 80 hours a week. I had coffee with the guy this morning, telling him the story. And every Christmas we'd lay off 10%, just part of our process. We did it, and I was either had to pick the list or I was given the list. That wasn't. I mean, I have no problem letting people go if it's the right thing. But with layoffs are tough because they really are. Like you didn't do anything wrong, but you're being laid off. It's just hard. And I more decided to do it because I didn't want to be that guy or gal in 40 years being laid off. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to put my fate in anybody else's hands but my own.
Okay.
And I would be, you're killing it to make a $10,000 raise, and it's like, and I was making good money in my mid-20s, more than I ever thought I would make. But it was also still like, I don't want it. This isn't worth it for me. Like it's like at some point, $10,000 or $20,000 extra doesn't really make a difference, and it's a lot of work for that. I think there's easier ways to make that much money. Like, that's what I thought. And so my uncle did executive recruiting, and I decided to move from Denver back to Michigan, but I didn't want to live in Jackson, where I'm from. I wanted to kind of do my own thing, be in my own space. I'd never been in Grand Rapids before I moved here.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, and I've read a lot about it, and I loved it. So I took a job with a search firm, moved here, worked there for 18 months, did really well. And the problem with most search firms, though, are that they're really top heavy, meaning that a lot of the money you make goes towards the owner or the principals.
Sure.
And you make good commission. Like you can make $100,000 doing this job, no problem. But you're giving up a lot of money. And so I thought to myself, and there's a lot of your full commission, but there was like a very corporate kind of a corporate feel, like there was like paid time off. And I think I'm not on salary. Why is there paid time off? Like, why is there PTO? That makes no sense. I make the money that I make and that's it. Or there'd be hours you had to be, like, there was really strict hours, and I thought this doesn't make sense. So I decided to start my own company because I was like, I'm going to create a company where people that work for me are going to make, if they're performing at a high level, they'll make more percentage of the deal than I'll make as the owner, because that's going to keep good people. And we operate, and like in the world of executive search, most companies you make your commission goes up as you bill each year, but then January 1 it resets back to the beginning. You have to build your way back up again. So our company, we keep, if you're at a commission tier and you're maintaining, you always stay there. The only time you fall back is if your production falls. That's the only way. And so you can continue to make the same percentage you're used to, the 45, 50, 55% of the deal. You're making that because you're working hard. You don't go back to 30%.
Right.
So I saw things that I wanted to change. I wanted to work for myself. I started this company, and then I had a non-compete, a 2-year non-compete. I was abiding by that non-compete. But a tactic a lot of companies use, especially with salespeople, is they'll say, hey, you have a non-compete, I'm going to sue you because you're in violation of some article of it. Which I wasn't.
Just for existing?
Just to that company's got a lot of money. I had $45,000 in the bank that I was using because it's going to take 6 months to really start making money. So I was like going to use that for 6 months till I started billing on my own in a new industry. I started working in higher education because that's where I had some contacts, and before I was doing financial services like insurance and banking and stuff. So long story short, I started this business. A month later, I get a notice from his lawyer, my old owner's lawyer, saying, you need to cease and desist this industry or we're going to sue you. And I went to my lawyer. My lawyer's like, yeah, you're fine. Let's just fight back and forth. But all that fighting back and forth was taking up $2,000 chunks, $3,000 chunks, $1,500 chunks, plus a lot of stress. And I was young. I was 26, 27. I was 27. I didn't know, like, I just was, if you're getting sued, you're probably doing something right. Majority of the time, someone's angry at you for something. And so I was junior and I didn't handle it, I don't think, that well. Like, I would get nervous and anxious about it because and when I started this company, when I quit my job to start this, we had found out my wife was pregnant with our youngest. So I had that extra thing going too. But so then out of that, I started Brothers Leather because I thought I was looking for a leather bag at the time on my own and I couldn't find one that I liked. And so I thought, what if I took, instead of buying a leather bag for $2,000, what if I just took $2,000 and put it into creating like 4 designs? I found a manufacturer overseas in India. So what if I just made these really simple bags and sold them cheaper than everybody else? So I started that in March of 2014.
How's that going?
And it took off. I mean, we did.
I might run out and grab some pieces.
Yeah,
and
for
show
sure.
it on video before
yeah. So we created. We went from like a 4-piece of 4 bags to over 100 units of bags, belts, wallets, iPhone cases, journals, journal covers. We do custom branding, and the thing exploded. I think the best year we ever had, we did over $500,000 in it was our first full year. Wow. So, but then I was dealing with trying to do 2 companies at once, which got me a lot of attention and kind of inflated my ego a bit. But I wasn't really doing. We did okay, but I wasn't doing either company really well. I was just keeping each company's head above water. Like, we'd have a great month at one company, the other company would be in the tank. They'd have a great month at that company, get that company back up, and then this company would be in the tank. We didn't have the resources to do both at a really high level, and I couldn't afford anybody really good. Like, I could only afford. There were some really good people that were right out of college we hired, but they're just not at the level that someone who'd be in their late 20s, early 30s would be at. They don't have that business maturity sense. So, and I didn't have the time to invest in them because I'm growing my own book of business on the search side. I have my own clients. I have a handful of clients that I work with. So, yeah, we made a decision in the last year to kind of make Brothers back. We had its own retail store. We had a sales team, and in the last year we decided to pull that back a little bit and just go back to selling online because it's way more manageable, and I can really focus on the search front. So that's why when you came in, you saw this product here because we got rid of a lot of our overhead, got rid of our retail store, got rid of a big warehouse we had, and we're right now doing everything out of here to save money, but also to just make it back to the online, which is where it had most of its success. Once you added overhead, your revenue or your profit goes down, right? Mm-hmm. So we try to get rid of a lot of overhead.
You took steps backwards with foresight to go forward.
That's the plan.
It's not genius work. It's simple, right?
Yeah.
And
you got to fight that. People are like, oh, why'd you close your stores? Things must be going wrong, or things must be really hard. And the store was open for 30 months, and only 2 months we didn't make money in the store. Okay. Out of 30. So.
And yet still you saw opportunity in another. It's interesting. You were doing well in one space.
Yeah.
So I was thinking back a little while ago when you were talking about another portion of the book, talked a lot about talent versus grit. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing it's easy for somebody that's told you're talented, you have a gift. It's easy for them, especially through school, getting these accolades, to then later, when life really does punch them in the mouth, give up quickly, right? Mm-hmm. Because all of a sudden they're now being told by the world they're not as awesome as they were told forever.
Yep.
So it sounds like you were still able to know this, and you're continually fighting through. Like, it doesn't sound like anything was handed to you on a silver platter. No. And yet, you just keep pushing.
Yeah. So, that's true. I mean, I think what I've learned in the past 4 years since I've been doing my own businesses, or 5 years now, I guess almost, is that working harder is only going to get you at some point you have to start working smart. So like this, like this mentality of grinding. At some point, you're going to grinding's not going to do anything for you. You have to be more efficient, be smarter. And so with brothers, we got so wide, and we started just to kind of flatten out. And I thought my wife and I worked together and said this isn't going to work as the way we want to unless we hire somebody, which we're not going to do. So let's bring it back to where it was,
deep.
and then go deep.
Yeah.
And so I think now it's sexy to grow wide. To how many companies can you have? How many how many businesses can you have ownership in? How many things can you have your hands in the pot? And my focus right now is to grow as wide and deep in one venture, Harrison Gray, as I can. Brothers will continue to be successful online. It's completely fine. We have that thing runs like a machine.
It's like a self-managing system at
it
this
is.
point.
It's just-
It's measurable. It's accountable.
Exactly.
It's trackable. That's awesome.
There's not much to do. But with Harrison Gray, it's really like how deep can we grow this thing? How wide can we get our net as far as clients and people we bring into our company that work for us and grow it that way? And then, and only then, does it make sense for us to look at, okay, what other ventures, what other things can we do? But I think that...
Does that happen? Did you think that was going to happen in a year? Or did you know it was going to take 7, 10, 15? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Harrison Gray's 5 years in, and we're just now hitting our stride. I think we're just now getting to a place where I feel like it's starting to work like clockwork. And the last 5 years have been, it's just every day coming in, getting on the phone, every day coming in, responding to potential clients, every day coming in, starting a new search. Like, it's just always filling your pipeline. It's literally just sales 101.
Yeah, I call it my Ferris wheel.
Yeah, essentially.
I want to fill my Ferris wheel, and then I want to align.
Yep.
So that there's never a break when that comes back
Yep.
around.
Yep.
So fill that Ferris wheel.
Exactly. And so, but it's taken, 5 years for us to get to a place where I feel like we're starting to kind of hit our stride, and then we can really take off from here.
Has that been a sense of satisfaction for you, in as much that like you were surprised that it's happening this quickly, or were you at the point where you were already like, geez, year 4,
Yeah.
you're like, ugh.
Well, I think that with starting brothers was really the wild card, because if I never had brothers, I wonder how much faster I would have gotten Harrison Gray moving.
Were you slim? Were you run yourself thin?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. I started my own company so I could have more time for my family. That's what drives me, and it wasn't happening.
It
wasn't happening
an
at all.
inverse relationship.
Yeah, like I
They're
couldn't.
not.
I wanted to go, like, if Michigan. I'm a big Michigan fan. If they're playing a basketball game like in the tournament, I want to go watch it somewhere. If they play at 2:00, I couldn't do that in previous years because I wasn't at a place where I was satisfied. It felt good leaving. If I left early, I would my wife will testify to this. I'm borderline miserable if I feel like I'm not hitting the goals I need to be hitting. And so, I set a goal, a 13-week goal, a sales goal for myself. And if I'm not on pace for that, I try not to let myself have those, I won't leave, or I won't go do something, or I won't meet a friend.
You're self-accountable.
Yeah.
And you're setting basic repercussions for yourself, right? Ramifications.
There's no safety
Why
net.
13?
I like it better than 12. It's just something different.
All right.
But I think 13 is divisible by 52. That's why I did it that way, because there's 52 weeks in a year.
52, yeah.
So I set 13-week bill goal. That's what everything funnels down to for my year goal in 4 increments. And if I'm not on pace for my 13-week financial goal, then I should not leave work early to go golf, or I should not leave work early to go watch a game.
When do you measure that 13-week process, and whether you're at half of your...
Yeah, so if I'm looking at if I'm looking at my goal, thinking about my goal for this one, for this 13-week goal, I'm in week 6, and I am at me personally, I'm at almost 85% of my goal for the 13 weeks. So Michigan plays at 2:00 on Thursday. I'll probably go to an establishment and watch it because I'm going to exceed my goal.
Okay.
And I don't work to play. I work so I can do stuff like that. So that's kind of how it
justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are you sacrificing for business today, and why?
Man, that's a good question. So I guess maybe I'm sacrificing comfort.
Even still, we're at 5 years, you're starting to feel the plane level out.
Yep.
Not as much combine, right? So you're starting to smooth, and yet
still
you're still
comfort.
sacrificing.
It's still comfort. If I went to a company, I make good money. I could be making more, and it'd be more I know I'm getting this paycheck every week. That doesn't work this way. If we have employees, they get paid first. I mean, I get paid too, but there was a stretch a couple years ago where I didn't take a paycheck for 4 months because both companies kind of hit a dry spell, and so the employees get paid first. That's how it works. So I think still you're giving up a little bit of comfort or a stat, like, you know, if my buddy who works for a big company, and I know, like, you know, he's like, I know he's bringing in 200 a year. He's just got that guaranteed every week. He's getting that same paycheck. It's a way to budget. I haven't had that for a long time. So you give up that. I think you also, you know, there's not a ton of people in here, so I give up kind of like we have a few employees. Some are actually out today, but you know, you don't have like a big environment of people you can collaborate with because we're trying to grow this company with the cash we have. We have no safety nets. We have no debt. We're just growing it.
You don't have debt.
Mm-mm.
Love it.
So we're just growing responsibly, you know, and trying to keep cash in the bank. So
How did you get the money to start?
my own money,
Where did that money come from?
working at my last company. So I just saved money.
Out of college, you...
Oh, so yeah, so like,
Right.
yeah. So I saved money from just the company I worked at in Denver. Then I moved here and I worked for a search firm. I did really well there with my commissions and stuff. So then I just saved a lot of that money.
Is there any dollar DNA in your accounts today from when you were in high school and working?
Probably not.
No.
Probably
Okay.
not.
All right.
No. But yeah, I still,
Me neither.
I still,
I'm
yeah.
gonna smile
I
at you.
still have student debt. Not much, but I've got some left. I paid for college on my own. Yeah.
Well, then, yeah. So then, if some of the money you paid for college on your own, then some of that DNA from that money. I mean, it's. I'm looking for when you started. You know, it's like Gary was doing the lemonade stands and the baseball cards, and
Yeah.
you know, I think that's.
I did
great.
all that stuff too. I had a Pog stand.
Did
Like,
you?
My brother would make Pogs in the garage, and then someone could custom order a Pog, and I would radio on a walkie-talkie, and my brother, he would make the Pog on our Pog machine, and then he'd put it out the milk carton thing to me, and I would go deliver it to the customer.
That's awesome. How old were you?
6. So
That's
we had a
awesome.
stand in front of our house, and we'd flag people in. Now today, I would never let my kids do that because I don't trust anybody. But back in the 90s, we could do that.
How did you do in high school? You said you told me
Yeah, I
about
was like
college.
3.5, 3.6. High school, I didn't try that hard. I just cared about sports and my girlfriends and
Okay.
my friends. It was basically my life.
So 3 sports. Were you ever bullied?
No,
That you can remember?
not that I can. I went to a small Christian high school in Jackson, so
Was there not much bullying going on?
so I wouldn't say that I was a bully, but I was a part of like I was the youngest. I was bullied by my buddies, but they were my friends. I was the youngest. I was a freshman. We had like a couple seniors, juniors and sophomores and me. And so we were probably like the cool kids. So I would think that maybe there was a couple kids that we probably
Around that
might
had done some bullying.
yeah, we may have bullied a little bit. But
Gotcha,
it wasn't
gotcha.
like it wasn't like I don't know. I think
Tasteful. It was
yeah,
probably
well, I
just your
think about it.
comment.
There's no such thing as good bullying, so I probably was, but it wasn't like in a spirit of like, I really don't like you. It was just like our middle school and high school was combined, so we're
Okay.
like 7th graders, and these little kids would come up to us and yell and say something to us, trying to be funny, and we'd chase them down and put them on top of the pop machine. You know what I mean? Like we put them there, it's like try getting down. You know, so like that's kind of the extent of it.
It's
but,
so different
But
today.
I was definitely like in the cool. The only people that bullied me were my older friends. I was like the guy that they would throw snowballs at.
Were there times when if somebody did get bullied and you saw it, are you stepping in?
Oh yeah, I went to public school, I went to private school, and for some reason I was like, I was raised Christian and as a part of my life, and so I would see kids fighting and I'd be like, it's my job, because these kids were didn't believe in my mind, so I would try to break them up. Then it was a private school and everybody was a Christian, so I didn't feel that same kind of, because like, oh, they know they're fine. That's kind of how I looked at it when I was a
Okay.
kid.
All right.
It was very interesting, but yeah, like there was definitely, we'd stand up for some kids, but there wasn't a ton of bullying where I was at. It was more just like light hazing, if you will.
Okay.
But the school was too small. Like,
Stuff and
I had
fun.
26 kids in my in my high school class, like my graduating class.
26?
Yeah, and like 5 were dudes. So like it's a really small school that we were at.
Let's see if there's any other. I put a post down to ask some folks for some good questions. And I have
Ryan Ogle asked a good question on that post. I saw that.
Did you? The number one way that you balanced family, wife, or kids with your business, or as we call it at Keller Williams, you can really never balance life.
Mm-hmm.
It's about counterbalance, right? So you spend
Yeah.
a little bit on this and a lot on this, and then you go and you spend a little on that.
Yeah.
or a lot on that, and then a little back on this side.
Yeah.
So so his question again was the number one way that you balanced life, family, wife, kids, and your business, right?
Yep. So, it's a good question, Ryan. Really good question.
Ryan Ogle, shout out.
So for me, so I have this tactic where there's like a leaf that I will touch when I leave the office, like a physical leaf on a tree. And that is where I leave it. And I go home, or there's a leaf by my house, one of the two. It depends on what season it is. I'll touch the leaf, and it's like, this is me leafing, if you will.
From meow on.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I leave it here, and I am going to focus on my family, and I'm going to spend the next 4 or 5 hours focused on them. And I trust me, like there's been times I had to literally put my phone in the drawer or turn it off because I'm drawn to it. And
sure.
My wife will be like, "Hey, like,
right.
be here with us." And
right.
that's the reason I work. Like I do not, if I didn't have a family or kids, I would work to work, but I like that's why I do stuff. I'm trying, like my grandpa did that so I could do this. I'm doing this so my kids can do something and their kids can do something. And my wife and I can enjoy life when we're older. Like that's what I'm doing this for. And so if I'm not engaged, and especially when they're young and they actually like me, like what's the point? What's the point of having a family if you're not going to spend time or be motivated by or watch them grow up or be a part of their life or be forming them? What's the point? There's no point.
None.
So I'm not going to let myself I'm home at 5 almost every night. I'm there. I take the kids to school almost every morning. Because that's important to me. And I get them to bed and then spend time with my wife. Like no matter how great your marriage is, it's always a slippery slope, right? If you're not working at it, then there's a chance that it will decline. It's like a muscle. Your marriage is like a muscle. You've got to work on it. And so it's spending time with my wife, either it's watching a show or just talking about our day or doing something, whatever, just spending time together.
Yeah.
And then yes, there's nights where we've been so slammed this year where she'll go to bed, I'll go to bed, and then I can't sleep, so I get up and I'll go email or do something for 2 hours before I go to bed, or I'll get up extra early before I work out and work. I'll do that sometimes, but I'm not going to let it affect the 4 hours I have at the end of the day with my kids. It's not going to happen.
So do you run a schedule? You have a schedule up?
I have a book, man.
And you use a book or you use on your cell phone?
I use
You do handwritten scheduling?
I do this.
All right.
It's called it's called the self journal, and so every day it has you do a few things. In the morning, 3 things you're grateful for. If you talk about what you're grateful for, you're a much happier person.
So I don't copy off you. Our book is grateful things I learned, what I'm grateful for, things I learned, and things I failed at.
Yeah. Yep. So
I don't do it every day. I fail at that.
I do this every day, and I've been doing it since January 1, and it's been amazing. So I can write down my schedule or any notes that I have as the day is going on. 3 things I'm grateful for in the morning. In the morning, I also write down my goal for the day. What's the overall theme of my day? What should translate to my 10-year goal in some respects.
Hold it accountable to your goal.
Definitely my 1-year goal. And then in the beginning of the book, you write down your 13-week goal, your month goal, all that stuff. And then it's asked for your targets for the day. So what are the 3 main things I want to accomplish? Write those things down. And then it says, what did you learn today? What were the lessons you learned? What were your big wins? And then what are you grateful for tonight after the day?
Okay.
Do that every day.
Well, I mean, it looks like I'm doing something in my book in front of me every single day, and I am.
Yeah.
So I like that I get this.
Yeah.
You have to tell me the name of this book. I'll take that.
It's called the Self Journal.
Self Journal.
It's really.
No,
really good.
Is there on your cell phone? Is there a calendar that you have?
Yeah.
Where
totally.
you have, let's say, time blocks and things like
Yep,
this. So you're actually time blocking.
Yeah, because I have so many calls each day with like clients or candidates or people on our team.
Yeah.
So it's. Yeah.
And then is there a portion of your day at 5 o'clock on your schedule that shows unavailable?
Yeah.
Are you that intentional about it?
Mm-hmm. We have a booking system. So, when someone wants to book with us, a client or candidate, they click on the link.
Sure.
It shows our calendar,
Yeah,
and mine ends every day at 4 because I have I'm like basically shutting down. Like I'm planning for my next day at 4
Are you
o'clock.
actually taking any calls or answering the phone or looking at texts or anything like that when you get home at 5?
Yeah, I am.
You still do? Okay.
I try not to, but like sometimes with our deals, like if a client calls me at 6 because they're trying to wrap up an offer letter for a candidate, we have to take those. I just have to take them. Because it's getting an offer to a candidate because they want them to start on Friday or start next Monday. Yeah. You just got to move quickly.
And is it plausible that somebody out there could try to handle business at that time and their significant other not like it?
Totally.
How do you get around that? What's the key?
Communication.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Telling her, like, so Beth
Expectation.
I just say, listen, I have a money call, and when I say money call, she knows that it's either I'm closing a client or closing a candidate. Those are the only calls I'll take.
And then really, that's the reason we're doing everything we're doing is to nail down that final that spot.
Yeah.
Right? There's a course we took in the past called Fierce Conversations, and one of the topics there was being willing to. The conversation is the relationship.
Yeah.
People are like, how do I work on my relationship? It's conversation. Because that is the relationship.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
It's just getting on the same page and trying to make it fast. Like if I try to wrap those calls up really quick when I have to take them at home, but it does happen. But yeah, it's not frequent. I try to do it here.
Nice. Let's see what other questions we have. Well, I liked this one. My buddy Seth said, "What is the question they've always wanted to be asked but haven't been?"
That question. That's it. That's the one. I don't know.
That's kind of hard.
I think if. I mean, I guess I don't lay in bed and think, what would I wish somebody would ask me? I think the biggest thing
I'm trying to
is
think myself.
Don't look. The thing that maybe this is just where I'm at right now as a human, but everything good grows slow. I mean, even look at the Bitcoin boom and stuff. Mm-hmm. Those guys made a ton of money real quick, but now it's all down again. Like these guys that were billionaires 2 weeks ago are now just back to millionaires. Like they're still making money. What I'm saying is like what I'm doing, Brothers Leather, whether it's a blog or even this, like this shouldn't have as many hits as this should have in 2 years, right? Of episodes like this. Everything good grows slow, and so I just encourage people to think about that if you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to start your own business, don't expect everything great to happen tomorrow because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Everything good grows slow. Dream big, and but also know that it's going to take small steps to get there. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So I would say that nothing good happens
overnight. Patience. Gary's so right. I did a short post the other day. I was bowling last week, and there's a guy I see there every week. He's in his 80s, and he's there I love the guy, and I asked him to do this with me, and he will. Awesome. And I just asked him, what's your best advice for somebody?
Yeah.
He said patience. That's the only word he said, patience.
So true. It's so true.
Man. Do you have a mentor today?
Yeah, still the same guy in Denver.
Really?
Yeah, he was in town a few weeks ago. We had dinner and talked for 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. Yeah, and I would say that we don't talk as much as I'd like, but a few times a year we check in. And then I have a couple people here that I look for mentors. It's when you run your own company, they don't find you. So I run into people and I can just tell really quickly that I want to learn from them. And so I'll say, hey, we have dinner? Can we grab drinks? Can we grab coffee? And I'll just tell them, like, I can learn from you. I have questions. What would you do here? Yeah. And they're always open to tell you about it.
Yeah. Success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. I mean, I get it from my wife sometimes where, so we're moving. We bought a house. We close tomorrow. We'll wind up. Thank you. We will wind up needing to pack and move and get out of there quickly and do this and that. And so we got a quote from somebody for like $3,000 to do it all.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm trying to sell my motorcycle because I know I need a newer one someday. And I feel like my wife would feel great if I showed her that I'd be willing to sell my lovely bike to help with the move and all that. And I'm thinking, I don't want to sell my bike to essentially pay some people to move my stuff. Yeah. So I said, hey, I'm going to put out a post on my work Facebook page and personal and just see who would be willing to give us some boxes or come by with the truck, help load it. And of course she's, her mentality is, that's, you don't want to ask for that. And, what's more socially the narrative of, be polite or right with everything. Yeah. And what's wrong with asking? And now I have 10, 11 guys and I have, I don't know, 3 or 4 enclosed trailers plus U-Hauls. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Right. And so my lesson, I guess, or for people is don't be afraid to be with anybody that said that they've done everything on their own in their life really hasn't done much because we all need help from somebody.
Totally.
And that's I think that's as small as even, so there's a lady I closed with yesterday. She knows nothing about real estate. And I asked her for advice. Is there anything I could have done better to make your experience stronger, more memorable? All she said was, one thing, we didn't do a good enough job introducing the person that was going to help do the open house for her before the open house. She just wanted to have a chance to meet them, see their face, shake their hand or something before they were in their house.
Yep.
And so here we are for the last few years and years doing open houses and stuff, and so one of our buyer agents does it. And I don't think we've ever considered, even when I was doing them, so.
Yeah.
Just in that one moment, this lady that had no experience in real estate, here we have years and hundreds and thousands of transactions that we've done.
Yeah.
And this lady gave us just a little bit of feedback that may help us,
Totally.
And so it was great. What's some of the best advice that you've gotten, I guess in some of your first few years doing this, right? So Harrison Gray, you guys help find, for those that haven't figured this out, you guys are
We're an executive search firm.
Headhunters,
Yep.
right? You guys find talent and place talent with businesses.
Companies. Yep.
Awesome. So personality assessments, disc profiles, KPAs, like all this, whatever.
Yeah, whatever they need.
Yeah. Awesome.
We're basically finding a character fit. I mean, it's not that hard to find someone that can do the job. It's finding somebody that can do the job. It also fits in the culture. And so that's the value. And you're not doing all the work of sourcing, qualifying, pre-qualifying, emailing. Like we take care of everything. You just get a great candidate on your doorstep saying, hey, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
For interviews, at least. I think the best piece of advice I've been given is, there's a lot of like, don't spit in the wind. Is a good piece of advice.
Have you ever heard of the Bible, The Message?
Yeah.
So in I think it's Colossians. They talk about peeing in the wind is spitting in the wind. It's funny you say that. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe that's where the guy got it. Told me that. I think that I guess most recently was just what I talked about, was that everything great grows slow, and so just mentally prepare, like walking through my day that way instead of wanting everything to happen tomorrow. I think that's really helped me, and I think like this is cliche, but like your words matter, like what you say matters, how you say it matters, who you say it to matters.
That was the other half of Bob's comment at the bowling alley.
Oh, yeah.
Patience and
Man, Bob's my spirit animal.
right? And doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, essentially.
That's what he said.
Having integrity. And so I think that for me is like, I've really been thinking about how I use my words, how can I use them, not just as like not being mean, but also being super nice. Like they're a resource. Like you can change someone's day by just saying, hey, I really like that shirt. Or, hey, you did a great job today.
Yes, making it. I say quite a lot. Go smile at 100 people. Give a compliment.
Yeah.
I find myself quite a bit realizing I don't do it enough.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, too, a good practice is, like, I try to keep, on my computer, I have this little piece of string with 4 beads on it, and that's a reminder to encourage 4 people. If you can encourage 4 people every day, that's a really good practice to have. So it could be your coworkers, it could be your wife, your kids, and because my company's so small, it's easy. I can like check that off really easily because I can sell to the same 4 people every day, or my wife, and then 3 of our employees. Hey, great job! Or
so do you have a rule around that? Does it have to be?
It just can't be generic. You can't say
or new people.
You can't say or like a stranger.
Strangers.
Like,
sure.
Like you could say like I really like that handkerchief. That's great. See, there's one. There's boom, one bead down. But like nobody gets encouraged and hates it. Everybody's like responds with a smile. They love it. And it also does more. It does a lot for you too as the individual to encourage people.
Yeah.
So
we preach a lot of staying in curiosity and coming from contribution.
Yeah.
It's a big thing for us. And it's easy. So what are some of the challenges you face? Because it's some of the challenges I face as I get viewed. I'm in real estate. I get viewed as like a used car salesman. What are some of the hurdles that you?
Same idea. In the recruiting isn't commonplace, but people like who work in HR departments or big companies that deal with recruiters usually view us either as a necessary evil because they don't have the resources to find a person that we can find. Our fees are relatively big, so it's a lot of money. But the other thing is I'm really battling bad experiences that candidates and clients have had with recruiters, whether it's some recruiters will, like any sales role, will push people through that aren't qualified, just they want to get their stats up for their company, or they won't be honest with what a company's looking for, they won't be honest with the company about who the candidate is. And so we always have to mitigate just the bad experiences people have had with other recruiters. And so, and that's, which is a sizable challenge, but I think we do an okay job of it. So.
Awesome. Pardon me, I'm looking. See, the beauty about running a schedule is I I don't have to worry about much. I just wake up and look at the day and see what play I have.
Totally. Yeah.
I have an appointment here in 30 minutes,
Yeah.
so I want to make sure I'm not late for that.
Yeah.
It's awesome, the power of the mind, and I love the examples that you've been using. Thank you for all of it.
Yeah. No problem.
I think that gives a lot to the people that are listening, and I also, the biggest reason I asked you to do this with me was I wanted to do something for you. So you mentioned earlier, which I want to remind and give people, there's that 5149 that Gary talks about, right?
Yep.
So I love that, guys. It sounds like he's deployed this. When you have an opportunity to take 51% where that's expected or commonplace, give 51%, take 49, and there's a disproportionate amount of leverage in your 49 versus what you would have had or thought you would have had in that extra 2%.
Yep.
So that's great.
Totally.
Hey, I'm sorry that we don't get to spend another hour together doing this. I enjoyed this time.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
I really do. I'm going to wind up sharing this with you. We'll get you linked in with the page and make sure that the other guys know about you as well. I can't thank you enough. I really enjoyed your time, and I look forward to maybe spending some time with you on something in the future. Your points on patience, task on time over time, it's so important. My last thing for you to do is, I'm going to do this with every episode. I have a book for you I'm going to give you. I give a book to everybody. And I'd like for you, if you've listened to Gary, you know that what will happen in virtual reality in 50 to 100 years. So I'd like you to take a look at the camera. And I'd like you to say something about failing forward to your granddaughter 100 years from now, sitting in a pod, sitting in this room with us right now. What would you tell her about failing forward?
So, granddaughter, 100 years from now, in 2118, I would tell you just the only opinion that matters is yours, of yourself. That's all that matters. If you don't like the opinion you have of yourself, there's things you can do to change that, but you can control it. So don't worry about anybody else's opinion of you but your own.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
What would you say to yourself 30 years ago?
Man, you didn't watch enough Ninja Turtles. That was life. That was a great life. Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it's great.